Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to systematically untangle the incredibly complex web of India's major poverty and unemployment alleviation programs. Over the next few minutes, we'll be breaking down 15 distinct structural initiatives to see exactly how they come together to form this massive economic safety net. But before we get into the nitty-gritty details, just take a second to think about the sheer logistical nightmare of designing economic support systems for a country of this immense size. I mean, we aren't just dealing with a few thousand people here. We are attempting to uplift hundreds of millions of individuals across some incredibly diverse urban and rural landscapes. So how exactly does a government execute welfare at that totally unprecedented scale?
Well, here is our roadmap for answering that. We'll start with tackling poverty in India, then look at rural wage employment guaranteed, move on to urban livelihoods and skills, cover housing, health and security, and wrap up with women and crisis relief.
Okay, Section 1. Tackling poverty in India.
To really understand the economic trap these policies are designed to break, we have to talk about the vicious circle of poverty. It's basically a self-reinforcing loop. Underdevelopment causes low productivity, right? And that low productivity leads directly to low real income. Now, when your income is low, you obviously can't save. And when you can't save, there's a huge deficiency in capital and low investment across the board, which just feeds right back into that initial underdevelopment. It keeps an economy completely stagnant. The 15 programs we're digging into today were strategically designed to smash this exact circle.
Section 2. Rural Wage Employment Guaranteed.
So, massive nationwide schemes don't just pop up overnight out of nowhere. Early programs were systematically tested and then merged to build a unified rural safety net. If we look back to 1993, the Employment Assurance Scheme, or EAS, introduced this concept of providing 100 days of lean season work, funded on a 75-25 split between the center and the states. Fast forward to 2001, and we get the Food for Work program, which literally paid wages partly in food grains across 150 backward districts. That same year, the SGRY started merging these older fragmented projects together. All of this basically served as the testing ground that culminated in the landmark 2005 MGNREGA Act.
And what's truly revolutionary about MGNREGA is how it took those early ideas and slapped ironclad guarantees onto them. It didn't just casually offer work, it legally guaranteed 100 days of unskilled wage employment for every single rural household. Plus, it structurally mandated that 1/3 of the beneficiaries absolutely had to be women, practically embedding female economic empowerment right into the legislation itself. And to fix the early criticisms about corruption and money leaking out of the system, they eventually streamlined the whole operational model, using Aadhaar-linked systems to transfer the cash directly into workers' bank accounts.
To grasp the true human impact of this, just consider this staggering figure. 47 crore rural households were provided employment by this single initiative between 2006 and 2019. It drastically improved rural development through massive infrastructure projects like roads and flood control, while simultaneously driving up agricultural wages everywhere.
Honestly, scale like that doesn't go unnoticed. It earned MGNREGA serious international acclaim. In fact, in its 2015 report, the United Nations Development Program cited it as a globally exemplary model, flat out stating that its size has no precedent nationally or internationally.
Section 3. Urban Livelihoods and Skills.
But hey, while rural jobs were being guaranteed, what about the cities? The government had to tackle rapidly growing urban underemployment too, and they took two very distinct approaches. On one hand, you had programs like SJSRY, which evolved into the National Urban Livelihood Mission. This was heavily focused on setting up urban self-employment ventures and community networks, again using that 75-25 funding split. But on the other hand, look at the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana from 2015. This took a completely different angle. It actively identified school dropouts, kids who left after class 10 or 12, and gave them industry-relevant vocational skill training. Literally, almost 2 million youths were trained in just the 2015-2016 period alone to make them genuinely employable.
And sometimes these schemes pull off a brilliant dual purpose. Take Hriday, for instance. Launched in 2015, this was a 500 crore rupee program with just an incredibly creative mandate. It generated employment for both skilled and unskilled labor by funding the preservation of India's historical and cultural heritage sites. It's a really elegant solution, right? Poverty alleviation working seamlessly hand in hand with cultural preservation.
Section 4. Housing, Health, and Security.
Because, let's be real, beyond just daily wages, a true safety net has to secure a home, health, and a future.
Early holistic programs, like the Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana back in 2000, realized that a village needs way more than just jobs. To actually improve the quality of life, they targeted 5 critical areas at once: health, primary education, drinking water, housing, and rural roads. Under this umbrella, they rolled out the massive Gram Sadak Yojana, ensuring that any village with over 500 people finally got a reliable, all-weather road.
Housing policy evolved drastically too. We started with the Indra Awas Yojana, which had a very specific rural focus, basically providing free house construction strictly for marginalized groups and freed bonded laborers. But jump ahead to 2015 with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and the scope just explodes to housing for all. This new scheme targeted building 2 crew square houses by 2022 across both urban and rural areas, utilizing central subsidies and offering interest breaks between 3 and 6.5%.
Now, cutting through this absolute alphabet soup of acronyms, we can see targeted safety nets for distinct demographics. You have KSSY providing Social Security specifically for agricultural laborers. There's SSY, which offers a 100 rupee monthly scholarship just to keep kids from below poverty line families in school from classes 9 through 12. Then you've got PMSBY, offering massive accident insurance coverage up to 2 lakh rupees for an incredibly low premium of just 12 rupees a year, literally less than the cost of a single cup of chai. And the PM Atal Pension Yojana gives unorganized sector workers a contributory pension ranging from 1 to 5,000 rupees. It's a very multi-pronged approach to handle life's uncertainties.
And we all know one medical emergency can push a vulnerable family right back down into that vicious circle of poverty we talked about earlier. So the 2017 National Health Policy stepped in. It not only targeted universal primary health care for everyone, but specifically carved out a 1 lakh rupee health insurance cover exclusively for families living below the poverty line.
Section 5. Women and Crisis Relief.
In our final section, we are looking at targeted empowerment and how these vast, intricate networks actually mobilize during an unprecedented crisis. Look, increasing female labor force participation is absolutely critical for any developing economy, and the Women Empowerment Campaign strategically targets exactly this. Aside from just creating gainful employment, a huge focus here is digital literacy. By setting up dedicated women employment centers directly at the village level, the program provides comprehensive, localized support to finally bring more women into the active workforce.
But the true test of any safety net is what happens when the absolute worst occurs. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, the government quickly leveraged all this existing infrastructure we've been talking about in 3 massive steps. Step 1, rolling out one of the world's largest food grain distribution programs. Step 2, utilizing that digital banking infrastructure for direct cash transfers to 42 crore individuals, including cash support specifically to over 20 crore women's Jan Dhan accounts. And Step 3, tackling the immense migrant worker displacement by launching the Garib Rozgar Abhiyan.
This was a rapid emergency drive launched in June 2020. And it showcased how existing frameworks could be adapted basically overnight. Lasting just 125 days across 116 districts in 6 states, this heavily focused campaign successfully generated roughly 51 crore employments for migrant workers who had been forced to return to their villages. Talk about a massive shock absorber for a system under completely unprecedented strain.
So we've seen how 15 distinct policies, spanning decades, from rural wage guarantees to urban upskilling and emergency pandemic relief, built a safety net for millions. But as demographics continue to shift and the global economy constantly evolves, the ultimate question really remains: how will these immense systems adapt next? How can they be optimized to not just alleviate poverty, but to eradicate that vicious circle entirely? Think about that as you digest the incredible scale of what we've covered today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.